right, man. So I'm excited to be here. This is all virtual. This is happening during the pandemic. I am now sitting down with Marlon Nichols. I think me and Marlon, I think we met, if memory serves me correct, I think it goes back to 2011 with the CNN piece with Black in America. I think when I met you, you were still at Intel. And so that was probably a few lives ago.
I actually met you before that.
Okay.
I was applying to business schools, and you were, I think your first, I don't know if it was exactly the brand camp, but you were doing a brand talk at University of Michigan. Ross is, I forgot what they call their Black student organization, but they had a conference.
Yes,
and I was attending the conference. And I listened in on your talk. You had a book at the time, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
I listened in on the talk, and I met you briefly afterwards. That was the first time we met.
Wow, man, that's a little history. So I'm assuming that you know my guy, Marcus Collins. Marcus Collins, you know Marcus Collins?
Yeah.
That's my guy.
I just did his class.
Okay. Man, good dude, man, doing some great stuff. And so, you know what I'm saying? So I should have figured that you guys knew each other. Yeah, wow. That's a minute. That was, I don't know, 2006, 2008, maybe, or something like that. Probably. Yeah.
In that range, yeah.
Okay.
Probably seven or six. Yep.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, it's good to be back with you and good to be able to talk. So Rebrand Black, so this is going to be a series of conversations with thought leaders, and this is centering around Black excellence, Black genius, Black economics. And so what I wanted to do was to have conversations with people that I respect, people that I rock with, people that I can see who are moving the culture forward. And so even though I know a lot of people know you, I'm gonna give you, I'm just gonna like say your title and stuff, but I want you to be able to provide some context and some color around it as well. So I'm talking to Marlon Nichols. He's a co-founder and managing partner at Mac Venture Capital. Kind of a Black unicorn of sorts. I know you went to Cornell University. I know you played basketball. And so I'm excited to be with you. But for those who are connecting with you for the first time, can you provide just a little more context about your history and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'll go all the way back. I was born in Jamaica, not Jamaica, New York, but Jamaica in the West Indies. And you'd be surprised how many people ask that when you say it. But I moved to the U.S. with my parents into New York when I was about 7. And then basically grew up in New York and spent the summers with my grandmother in Jamaica. And that's important. I mention it because that experience really provides an appreciation for how people outside of the United States live, and what true like poverty is. What there are varying degrees of affluence, and wealth, and and middle class. And kind of growing up in both places, it really gave me a strong perspective on what that means. But anyway, I did high school in the Bronx. Went to Northeastern for college. Growing up, I was a 2-sport athlete my whole life. Ran track and played basketball. Graduated from Northeastern and was fortunate enough to land at a startup. It was an enterprise software startup called Frictionless Commerce. And a year into that, I had a conversation with one of the co-founders. We just raised our the Series A, and we're getting a lot of attention in the UK and Europe. And he said, "Look, I'm going to move to the UK, and we're going to launch the company there, or a subset of the company there, subsidiary. And do you want to come as one of 3 people to help build it?" So yeah. So I ended up, spending 3 years in the UK, building this company, working everything from pre-sale, sales, implementation, customer support, customer success, like all of it. And then we ultimately sold the company to SAP, or they sold the company to SAP, and I was a young, growing employee in the company. But during that time, my evenings were filled with playing basketball. I played on a semi-pro team in the UK, and that was a kind of a fun experience and a way for me to meet people in a country where I basically knew no one except for the two people that came over with us, who were much older than I was at the time. So after that, I decided that I wanted to move back to the U.S. So went back to New York, Harlem specifically, and joined a boutique consulting firm. And my client was the Blackstone Group in their real estate division. And so I was helping them kind of create shared services organizations and managing those organizations while they, bought properties and entities and held them before selling them for greater value. That turned into, my consulting career turned into strategy consulting eventually, with a focus on media and entertainment. So I worked with companies like Warner Music and McGraw-Hill as they were looking to navigate the what was becoming the proliferation of the internet, right? So on the music side, you had piracy was running rampant. On the publishing side, bookstores were closing left and right. And so, our job was basically to help them think about how the internet, instead of being this enemy that we all knew was not going to go away, how could it be an ally? So, I did 4 years all in all in that consulting role before deciding to go back to business school. And the reason I went back to business school is because, the start of my career, or you could take it in thirds, the first third, I was operating, right? The second third, I was all the way over here, and I was doing consulting. And what I found out was I didn't want to be a full-on operator, and I definitely didn't want to be a consultant. And so there had to be something in the middle. And for me, that was venture capital. And I just, started thinking to myself and talking to, mentors and advisors and things of that nature, people of that nature. And, I was like, all right, I need to go back to business school. I got to build a network in this space. I got to get super tight, surgical on the financial piece of it too. And so went to business school at Cornell. I was fortunate to become the CEO of the school's venture fund for the 2 years that I was there, and then graduated with a job at Intel Capital. Spent 5 years as an investment director at Intel Capital, leading deals, helped to stand up the diversity fund that we created there and invest out of it. And then also became a Kauffman Fellow during that time. I'm now a board member of the Kauffman Fellows program, which is kind of the preeminent global training and network community in venture capital. And going through that program though was eye-opening, and it led me to start thinking about really what it would look like to create my own venture firm. And that's how the first fund, Cross Culture Ventures, was born. Co-founded that fund with Troy Carter. It's 5 years old now. We built a pretty successful vehicle, investing in 43 companies. Saw 5 of those companies exit. Most notable is probably Gimlet Media, and then that was acquired by Spotify. And in that portfolio now, we have a number of standout companies that, we hope over the next few years, will be kind of billion-dollar exits, but we'll see. And then Mac is the latest kind of installment of what we started to build at Cross Culture. It came through a merging of teams, if you would. Adrian Fenty, Michael Palank, and Charles King were running another venture firm called M Ventures, and we've been doing a lot of work with them over the years. And they're all personal friends as well. So as we were thinking about, what's next for this fund and how do we turn this into a franchise and, raise a larger sum of capital and all that stuff, it's all about building a high quality team. And those guys are nothing but high quality. So we got together and went through a rebranding process, and now we have Mac Venture Capital. And we launched it in 2019. We've invested in 12 companies out of the fund so far. By the time this month ends, we'll be in 14 companies out of this fund, and having fun and and building what we hope is a lasting franchise.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I want to go back to something real quick and just ask a quick question because like I'm a hoop head. I played in college for a hot sec. So when you were at Northeastern, was Reggie Williams there at the same time, or no? Or was he already gone?
No, he was gone. I'm not. I'm up there, but
You're like, I'm not as old as you, Hodge. You're just older than I am. I graduated from high school in '89, so you know what I'm saying. So I've been around for a minute. That's a good thing. That's a good thing for sure.
Yeah.
But I love the trajectory, and I love, what I'm saying, and I love the path. So I know we're going to talk a little bit today about cultural capital, and I saw some interesting, in terms like this post that you had about why investing in the rest of America is important. So when I go back and I think about cultural capital, I think about like the history or the historical context of it. And so if we go back to Pierre Bourdieu, I think his name is, I think he's a French sociologist from the 70s. He came up with this term and wrote a series of essays about the forms of capital. I think that was back in '85. And when he kind of formulated, he tied like social identity and status based on education. But I'm really interested in your viewpoint on how would you explain, or how do you see cultural capital?
Mm-hmm. So we took a slightly different approach, right? Our investment thesis, we call it cultural investing, right? Which I guess you could say they're cousins. But what we're looking at is, or the belief that we have is that popular culture drives everything, right? So whether you're talking about consumer facing things or enterprises, right? All those things are driven by human behavior, right? And so what we try to do is identify those shifts in behaviors and those shifts in cultural trends, right? Early. As they're starting to happen, and do a ton of research on them, and make a determination as to which of those are going to become a part of social norm, right? Or put another way, become popular culture. And if we can invest essentially in the places and things where people are spending their time not only today but in the future, and spending their money not only today but in the future. I mean, you're essentially investing in tomorrow's next big companies, right? So that's kind of how we see it. And then, from our culture perspective, we know that, Black culture drives a lot of what we see become mainstream and become popular culture, right? So we do a lot of work to understand what's happening in our communities, and to understand what are some of the challenges that are in our communities that could benefit from, the introduction of technology, right? And identifying, which of those challenges, which of those problems are actually billion-dollar opportunities, right? Because our communities, spend a significant greater portion of our income on products. And we're often early adopters and all those things. And most of these products and services and all that, they don't really necessarily, they're not really for us. They weren't designed for our communities, right? Or for addressing our specific challenges. So if we can kind of refocus and build some cool and necessary things for our community, like some of that spending pattern or the places we're spending those dollars are going to shift, right? And I want to be a part of the companies that are starting to eat up a lot of those dollars, because you know what? And we're in the middle of a pandemic now, and you know we've seen like there's certain things that no matter what the economic environment is, they're gonna thrive, right? And so if you're building something that people need, right, and it's a novel approach or novel technology or just unique, that thing is going to survive no matter what kind of day we're having outside, rainy, sunny, cloudy, whatever. So that's I know it was probably a longer answer than what you're looking for, but that's how we look at the world.
And you know, so you bring up some very interesting points. And what I love about what you're saying is that when I look at the world and I look at pop culture and I look at what's happening, lots of times people develop stuff who are not from the culture. And so what happens is that like I see all of these companies with big names that are connected to stuff that's big, but we're buying the products, we're driving it, and we're nowhere in the room or at the table. And so when I think about like, so even when I think about the economics, so the Black community spends, I think, somewhere in the arena of about $1.4 trillion annually. And we don't see enough people at the table. That's why I mentioned and kind of classified you in this Black unicorn kind of space from the standpoint of is that people that write checks and that are at the table, there's not enough people like you to be able to make sure that when those dollars are being spent, that we're investing in like the next thing. And so one example, and I want you, just dig in on that a little bit. So, so I know you guys invested in Play Versus, and so Delane is a personal friend of mine. We worked together when I think he was like 21, and I was fortunate enough to be an original investor. I don't have enough at this point in my life to be able to get any further, on the cap table. But can you speak to the why there's not more people like you at the table making these decisions and writing checks and making sure that these dollars are going to our community that's extremely creative?
Yeah, I mean, so it comes down to the allocators of capital, right? And so, my investors are, endowments, pension funds, fund of funds, like institutions, right? That write checks to venture capital firms. And, traditionally, there just weren't capital flowing to us. And I think there are a number of reasons, and you can rationalize it or whatever. And so let's give them a pass right now, right? And so these are the excuses that used to make sense, used to work, right? So you're investing in funds that invest in the U.S., right? Well, okay, you're part of, you have allocation in, I don't know, the Sequoias and the Kleiners and those folks, right? So you're like, all right, well, traditionally these guys and now women, have, returned a lot of capital for us. So we're just gonna, stay that course. And I can't imagine that there's another group that would see deals that these folks wouldn't see, right? And I think for a period of time that may have been true, right? But what's happening now is that Black people are achieving post-secondary and advanced degrees at an increasing clip every year for the last 40 years. It's become less capital intensive to start technology companies, and so now what we're seeing is that there are a healthy number Black and even Latinx founders that are starting these companies. And what we're seeing is that some of those traditional firms, either one, don't have access to those entrepreneurs. They just don't know them. They're not in their network. Or two, they don't understand the solutions or the challenges that those companies and those founders are looking to solve. So to them, it doesn't look like a good investment opportunity. So now it's become very, very clear that, well, yeah, those guys are great, and we'll continue to allocate to them. But like with everything else, there's always a newcomer, right? Like there was Mike going to basketball. There was Magic and Bird, right? Then there was Michael. Then there's Kobe. Now there's LeBron, right? There's always going to be a next generation, and you need to be a part of that. So I think, so the answer to your question is, the capital wasn't being allocated to us. Now there's starting to be more of that. And then also because there are kind of Black-led funds that are cultivating young Black talent in the space, there are going to be more and more managers of venture capital dollars. So there's going to be more of us to allocate to, right? So yeah, we just weren't seeing the dollars, and also, people invest in things that they're comfortable with, right? And people that they're comfortable with, and typically you are comfortable with people that resemble you in some way, whether that means the way you look, or the way you carry yourself, or the places where you grew up, the schools you went to, the activities that you participated in, right? All those things, present a level of comfort that that you get as an investor, and you're going to invest in people that resemble you. And so, the more folks that look like me and have had the life experiences that I've had that are sitting in the investing seat, the more folks that look like me and have had the experiences that I've had are going to get funding dollars.
Gotcha. You put that very, very well. Like, you could be a politician. I'm sure you probably don't have a whole lot of interest in the whole political space, but I love how you frame that. And so I'm really interested. So as Black folks, we set the stage for tastemaking. And so when I look at you, you always appear to be able to see around corners, and to be in spaces. So I'm at South by Southwest, and I see you on a panel. It's you and TI and other stuff. And so, what I'm saying? So I know that there's a cool factor, right? And so I know in our community, and I know even for me, like there's certain things like that are of interest to me. But now this connection of, it's one thing to be cool, but if you can turn that into capital and turn that into equity and turn that into economics, and you seem to kind of have the formula to kind of understand how to say, it's like what I'm saying? Like, you look like the culture, and I don't think you're, and I don't think you have a stylist to tell you, okay, go get these off-white shoes, what I'm saying? So so how do you combine these two, and and not get caught up in all the superficial stuff that doesn't really matter, but we know it matters, but making sure that we're at the table and being a part of those kind of conversations?
Yeah, I wish I had a stylist. My flow would be a lot better. But
man, you do a good job, though.
I appreciate you, bro. I think it comes down to building something that people respect and want to be around, right? So when you look at some of the companies you mentioned, Playverses, other companies like Maven, now Solo Funds, we invested in some pretty cool young founders that are building solutions that are, introducing, young Blavity, like young Black kids to technology and new lifestyles. If you think about like a Play Versus, right? Bringing more folks that look like us, come from places that we come from into esports, right? Like people respect that and want to be a part of it. And the fact that, we're able to identify these opportunities early before everyone else can jump on it. Investing is now cool, right? Like tech investing is now cool. Everybody wants to do tech investing, right? So you can show that you're good at it, and that, the opportunities that you're putting yourself in are opportunities that they want to be in as well. It's just a natural, occurrence, right? Like people want to be around you. And then I obviously want to be around them because I'm fans of what they do. Right. And also, it's just a part of our fund, DNA. Right. I mean, I mentioned I co-founded the first fund with Troy. I mean, he's I don't want to say responsible, but played a big role in a lot of, musicians' careers and lives, right? And is in the flow. Charles King was probably the most successful Black agent in Hollywood, right? So, I mean, he's worked with Oprah, Tyler Perry, Michael B. Jordan, Ryan Coogler, right? It's just like these are kind of the, I guess, famous tastemakers, if you would, right? And they're just a part of our community.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's dope. That's dope for sure. So now let's fast forward. On June 2nd, I know there was an article that was posted for the Kaufman Fellows, and I love the title of it. And it said we're tired. So I know that, so we're in the time frame of, and I wanted to just take the title. I was like, that's just hot, that's fire. But so we're in this pandemic. We're in a time frame where there's a lot of social unrest. There are people who are saying that they're tired after a month, and like this stuff's been going on for 400 plus years. So can you kind of speak to the moment that we're in, and why you felt the need to write that article?
Yeah, that was actually on my birthday too. But okay. It was, yeah, it was around the height of, everything that happened with Mr. Floyd, George Floyd, and just like, I guess, allies seeing it on television and live, and just like listening to the audio and just the grotesque nature of it. It had an effect on them, right? But obviously this is nothing new for us. And what was happening was I was getting a lot of phone calls and LinkedIn messages and emails and text messages around, well, how can we help? Like, didn't realize like this was a real thing, right? Just thought it was like overhyped, messaging from the media or whatever, right? And now it's real. And in addition to, living our lives, our everyday lives in the way that we do and navigating all the things that we do every day, plus like the pain, that we naturally feel every time we see that. Plus, now getting asked to be pulled in all these different directions to help other people feel better about themselves. It was just, I just said, man, I'm tired. I'm tired.